Well, no, I think you're right on Aaron wanting to play in Minnesota, Colin, and the Vikings have been told as much, and so the Vikings made the decision that they are going to, at the very least, give JJ McCarthy the entire spring and see where he's at the end of that. There's obviously some unknown coming back off the knee injury. He lost 4 months of development time. They still think very highly of him, but like they again are dealing with a bit of an unknown here. And the problem for Aaron now is, are you banking on that? Are you banking on a young guy not playing to his potential over the course of the next 2 months? That's not really a plan. Meanwhile, you have the Steelers who have been patient to this point, but do you get to the start of OTAs in May, and now you're talking about a team that's really got to get a quarterback in there, because that's not a rebuilding group. Like, that's a team with a bunch of win now players like TJ Watt and Minka Fitzpatrick and DK Metcalf and Cam Hayward and so on and so forth. So the timing of this is a little wonky because the Steelers' timetable is completely different than the Vikings' timetable. And if he were to walk away for the Steelers and say the Steelers trade for Kirk Cousins at the beginning of May, and that option comes off the table, well, he's not guaranteed that the Vikings option will be there in the middle of June. So it's a little bit of a weird spot to be in. I do think he wants to play. He's given, he's given people, he gave the Jets this indication. He's given the Steelers this indication that he does want to play in 2025. I don't think retirement's completely off the table. But the way his option is set up right now is with some wonky timing.
What I find so interesting though is, because it's being reported that like the Vikings are still leaving the door open for Aaron Rodgers. Like, it's not completely shut. And so that's why, like, they are giving JJ McCarthy the spring to just kind of be like, what do you look like? How's your body feel? Are you experiencing swelling? Any other issues with your knee? How do you just look like from a developmental standpoint? Do you look like you're ready to win and play right now? Like, they are still very, very much leaving the door open. Make no mistake about it. And it's it's interesting. Like, the Minnesota Vikings obviously are really excited to start this JJ McCarthy journey, but they clearly have some sort of reservations, and it can't just be because of meniscus surgery. I know there are already some issues with the meniscus surgery, and this still continues to be a sensitive subject for Minnesota Vikings fans, and I don't really have any desire to keep going in circles with regards to that. But the surgery clearly was just not 100% routine in terms of the recovery timeline because of the swelling they had and some of the other follow-up things that they had to do. But it's still just a meniscus surgery. So the sheer fact that, because like, even what Albert Breer is saying, he was like, oh, like this is like a tricky situation. How will he look coming off the knee surgery? And it's just like, it's just a meniscus surgery. Like, this stuff really is so routine. Like, it's pretty much like a no-brainer. Like, oh yeah, he'll make a full recovery. He'll be good to go. But there were obvious issues, and again, this is something that just triggers Minnesota Vikings fans, and I don't really know why, because it's just clearly reported, and there's the sheer fact that they're just like, we're gonna give JJ the spring, see how he looks, see how he's recovered, etc., etc. Again, like, that's your answer right there. The sheer fact that the door is still open for Aaron Rodgers. It's clearly not closed. Otherwise, it would be as clear as day. Albert Breer would be reporting. I've talked to the people in Minnesota. They are saying no. They don't want Aaron Rodgers. They're starting all with JJ McCarthy. He's starting next season, et cetera, et cetera. And they're not doing that. And you have to listen when people are talking to you. You have to hear what people are saying, even if it goes against what you want to be the reality of the situation. So, because like like Albert Breer is even saying here, it's kind of a wonky, tricky situation. It shouldn't be. It shouldn't be. It wasn't a wonky, tricky situation for Bo Nix, Caleb Williams, Jaden Daniels, they drafted them, and they were like, obviously I know they didn't get injured, but it was still like, essentially, or kind of around this time, a little bit later, they just give it an extra month, and they were like, we like knew like those are going to be the guys. They weren't like, oh, we're going to wait and see what Jaden Daniels looks like. It's like, no, like we know they're the starters. So the sheer fact that the door is still open it's just weird to me, and I haven't heard a satisfying answer. It still feels to me we're not 100% getting all of the information, quite frankly. And so I understand you lost like 4 months of development and all of that, and we've already talked about that. Like obviously it's different when you're just able to kind of like, go into meetings and whatnot compared to like when you can actually practice, when you can actually develop, when you can actually go through the workouts, all things that JJ was unable to do last season. And that does matter. That does impact you. But like there's still, it seems like the Minnesota Vikings are very much kind of doing two things at once. They're both simultaneously incredibly confident behind JJ McCarthy, really excited to get behind JJ McCarthy, but are also somewhat concerned and hesitant, and they're like, we think JJ McCarthy's, going to be fine, but we don't want to completely close the door in case we need to pivot, but we don't want to pull that thread now because we don't want to disrupt JJ McCarthy's, progress. Like if we decide to say, hey, we're going to go get Aaron now and kind of play it by ear, or even like a, trying to think of a little bit lower risk type of a quarterback, like a Kenny Pickett or something, like, sure, then I, or Joe Flacco even, like, they seem to be like, we still want to kind of go into this off season with the idea of like, JJ is our quarterback. He is going to be the starter. Okay? But just in case, let's just kind of, let's just kind of talk real softly, and we can be like, hey, maybe we can do this, and like, that's what it feels like. It's like, no, JJ is our quarterback, but, we'll just kind of wait and see for the next couple of months, and if we don't like what we see, we're going to go out and get Aaron Rodgers, I guess, and, we'll just be like, oh, JJ McCarthy needs a little bit more time to heal and recover, and it just, I've never really seen something like that unfold before, so it's interesting. It's definitely interesting, but the fact that it's still a talking point, I find fascinating. And now you do have Aaron Rodgers, who's kind of like, yeah, I guess I'm gonna wait and see a little bit. But Aaron was always gonna wait and see because he also just wants to wait until after the draft. He wants to make sure that if he goes to a team, he wants to know what their quarterback situation is. So also just from Aaron's perspective, that's going to make sense as well. It's just you're just gonna wait a couple more weeks. And then there you go. Everything's solidified. But those are just my thoughts. I'd absolutely love to hear yours. What do you guys all think about the Minnesota Vikings and Aaron Rodgers still kind of keeping that door open? Let me know in the comments below. I read every single comment. It's whether you agree with me or disagree with me. Either way, let's get in some discussions. Let's get in some fights. But ultimately, let's just have some fun. And please do consider subscribing. We're building an amazing community here, and I absolutely love to see you part of it. I want to build something that we all genuinely feel connected to. Something that we're really excited to be part of. I think we're well on our way to doing it. Please don't forget to give this video a thumbs up, as it really does help with the visibility and the algorithm. Thank you so much. See you next time.